Hello. I am going to be trying out my new food processor that I just got at the resale shop locally here. I'm going to try and use it to condition some CosClay. Now, this is some of the Kickstarter clay, which is super firm. Like, way firmer than I'm used to working with. So I'm just going to pinch off a piece and show you that it can be challenging to condition with your hands unless you have really strong hands, which I don't. So I'm smushing really hard and it's just being pretty crumbly. So I'll stick that back on there and then show you how the normal gray is. This was one of the first packs of the normal gray from the public release, and it's much softer. Just right out of the package you can smush it pretty well, and it's really not that hard to condition with your hands, but if you want to condition a bunch at a time, then it's probably a good idea to use a food processor. And this is what Arnold suggested to me, and I've seen him suggest it to a lot of other people for conditioning CosClay. So what I'm going to do is just break off bits of the Kickstarter clay, drop it in there. I don't really know how big of chunks I should do, but it's wanting to crumble into little teeny pieces. I'm imagining I don't want to put too big of chunks in there, but I don't want them to be so small that they just pass under the blade. Okay, that's all I'm going to put in there for now. And then I'm going to run this and we'll see what happens. Okay, it's latched shut. Let's take this sticker off so we can see the whole thing. Alright, this is probably going to be noisy. Okay, well, now it's broken into a million little teeny bits. Let's take this top back off. So, they're still pretty crumbly, not wanting to stick together too well yet. What I'm going to do is carefully wipe the clay off the blade so I don't cut myself. And then lift this out and see if I can squish a lot of this stuff to one side. I'm just going to try and smush it together a little bit and then run it again if I can. But this clay's pretty old, so I might want to put some CosClay clay softener or clay conditioner in it before trying to do this. Yeah, it's being pretty crumbly. Getting stuck under my fingernails. I'm just smushing it up against the walls and down into itself to try and stick it back together. Alright, I'm going to put this back on and then put the blade back on it and see what happens. Oh, maybe I should pull that out of the way first. Again, this is extremely experimental. I'm not really sure what I'm doing or if I'm doing it right. This chopper isn't actually as loud as I thought it would be, which is pretty nice. This is kind of an interesting texture that it turns the clay into. I guess if you're trying to make like little dioramas or something with clay gravel, that would work pretty well. It is starting to stick to itself easier. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is move the machine out of the way and try and smush this clay together on my little makeshift work surface here. Is a bit messy. Okay, so I'm just gonna press into the clay. It's definitely softer than it was when I first dropped it into the food processor. And what I've heard is once you get CosClay conditioned really well, like really well, it stays conditioned longer. Okay, yeah, this is still pretty firm. But that's just the beast of it because it's the firm clay. I will definitely try and add some clay softener onto this and try it again. I think I'm going to put it in a bag and put some clay softener and let it sit overnight. But I can squish it easier than I could before. This would probably work easier in a warm room too. It's not overly warm in my house right now. But yeah, so that's the Kickstarter clay. That's pretty firm. And just doing that, it actually did condition it pretty well. But if you're like me and you like to use a little bit of a softer clay, then I would definitely add some of the clay softener to it. Yeah, we're going to try it with the softer gray and see what happens there. Try and force this back into the shape it was in. So Since I'm doing gray and gray, I'm not concerned about there being bits of gray in there already from the Kickstarter. And again, the stuff is like already pretty soft. Like, I wouldn't really probably need to do this much if I was just making something tiny. But if I plan on sculpting something bigger and I want a lot of clay already conditioned and super soft, then this would be the thing to do. Alright, so this is the softer gray. Let's run the machine and see what happens. Ah, I can already see it's less likely to crumble up into little itty teeny bitty pieces, which would probably make it a lot easier to squish back together. I'm going to remove the blade. These things are super sharp, so you have to be careful. Oh yeah, wow, I notice a huge difference. This is like super, super soft, and it's pretty warm from going through there. I'm going to dump this one out on here too. Yeah, this all squishes together really nicely, really easily. It would make it pretty quick if you were wanting to roll sheets of clay through a pasta machine. It's already super soft. You could get to sculpting pretty quickly with this. And this might actually be too soft for some people, so what I've done in the past is combine some of the firm Kickstarter clay with the softer gray, and it makes a really nice consistency. But this really I don't think is too soft for me for most of my projects. Try and squish it back together without trapping bubbles, but I'm probably not doing a very good job. I've really never noticed a problem with CosClay with bubbles though. So yeah, that's my little video. This is like super nice and easy to work with. Just out of this package, like I cannot squish it that quickly because it is pretty firm and crumbly when it's in the box here. So just a couple of seconds in that little food processor and it is ready to go.